All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. This is Daniel Lovett. I'm here with Logan Barone, who is the author of a book called The Mystery in You, Discovering God in the Deepest Part of Your Being. I would love to hear from you, Logan, about how you came to write this book and about your spiritual journey that led to this.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me on. Really excited to have this conversation. I know you're a mystic, so from one mystic to another mystic, this should be a fascinating conversation. So yeah, I grew up Catholic, and then when I was 11, my family left the Catholic Church, and we became Protestant evangelical. And I'd say somewhere maybe high school, I really developed a passion for just the Bible, studying the Bible, and then um, maybe towards the end of high school, I'd say junior senior year, I felt like God was calling me to go into ministry. So I took a year off after high school and took a year to just fast and pray and figure out what the next step was. And then there was an opportunity for me to go into a full time pastoral internship at a church. And the cool thing was that this internship was partnered with Oral Roberts. So I enrolled at Oral Roberts as a full time online student, and I studied theology, ministry, and leadership. Was my bachelor's degree. And during my freshman year at this internship, I started questioning a lot of the core tenets of my faith, of my evangelicalism that I had been taught. And really, this was, gosh, it was almost 10 years of it because, like I said, my family left the Catholic Church when I was 11. And now at this point, I'm like 19, 20. So there was a lot of um, beliefs that had become really embedded into my subconscious mind. And I don't know exactly what caused it, but freshman year in this internship at Oral Roberts, I started questioning some of these core tenets. And I think I've always been uh, someone that's open minded. I've always had a lot of questions, but I was always like afraid to ask. And I felt like I couldn't ask certain questions. So I just wouldn't ask anybody, especially like my pastors or anybody I was in ministry with. So I just kind of kept it to myself. But I started reading, I don't know if you're familiar with the Mirror Bible. Francois Dutoy is the author of that. But I started reading the Mirror Bible and some other people who were like-minded, um, and these beliefs and this way of viewing the Bible and theology was completely different than what I was brought up in, and this really opened me up to thinking differently, and this just opened up more questions, and uh, I just kept, again, this is like private. Like, I'm not telling anyone I'm reading these other books. I'm doing this like alone. But the more I do it, the more I begin to question things. And so uh, I think after my junior year, I got to a point to where like I couldn't hold it in anymore. So I started asking these questions. I started telling other people about my new views. And that's when things got really rough because I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of like lifelong relationships in ministry simply because I had new beliefs. And I had a completely different theology uh, system than what I had previously been studying at my in college and all throughout high school as an evangelical. And this led to me having a spiritual awakening. And during the spiritual awakening, I began to have these mystical experiences. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to figure God out theologically with just studying the Bible or having all the right dogmas and doctrines. I was going to God with an open heart, saying, God, I know nothing. I thought I had it all figured out. I thought I had all the answers, but as it turns out, I don't. And so I think that approach is what sparked me experiencing God for the first time from within, instead of searching for God out there somewhere, whether it was in a pastor, in a church, in a Bible, in a belief structure, which are all external things. This was the first time I started going within, and what I realized was that God cannot be known with intellectual knowledge, because God transcends the mind. God transcends the intellect, but God can be known experientially. And so when I began to experience God, that's when transformation happened in my life. And that was when God went from being like this idea, this distant mega being in the clouds, to a it's ineffable. It's so hard to explain, but it was this presence of love from the deepest part of my being, and it was the experience of union, which is very, very hard to describe. And so I don't even like attempt to describe my mystical experiences, because they're really indescribable. It's beyond anything I can think or talk about. But all I knew was that these experiences were changing me, and I was being transformed from the inside out. And around this time was when I really started to read the church mystics, such as Saint Teresa of Avila, Julian of Norwich, Saint John of the Cross, Meister Eckhart, Brother Lawrence, and many others. And what I noticed was that a lot of their experiences that they were having were very similar to the ones that I was beginning to have. And so this sparked faith to me, for me to keep moving in that direction. That was a time where I needed assurance that I was on the right path, because again, I left a faith community that I grew up in for almost 10 years, and I didn't know really anything outside of what that faith community taught and believed. And so for me, stepping outside of that and learning like a completely different theology, and then having these experiences that are indescribable, but all I know is that it's the greatest experience I've ever had, that came with a lot of doubt and almost fear, because again, it was all brand new. It was stepping into the unknown. But what I've realized is that experiencing God and taking this mystical journey is actually all about stepping into the unknown, because the mind, the ego, wants to have everything figured out. It wants to have certainty. It wants to know for sure that this is the way it is and this is the way it's not. But that's not how it works in mysticism. And so I began to embrace mystery. And I wrote my senior paper at ORU. And after writing my senior paper, I developed a passion for writing. So I started writing little blogs here and there. And then that turned into some poetry. And then one day I just decided to start writing a book. And it was weird, because when I started writing this book, it felt effortless. It was just easy. And I knew exactly what I wanted to write about. And when I began to write, I entered the flow state, and there was a flow to my writing. And so the book, The Mystery in You, it's really not that long. It's 140 pages, something like that. But it only took me about 3 months to write. And I wasn't writing every day. But every time I would write, I would sit down for hours and it would just flow. And yeah, so that was October of 22 is when I started writing it, and then it was published in March of 23. So after writing the book, I of course continued my passion with writing, and I write like little things on Facebook every week. And then I started my YouTube channel, and I started just working with people. And my passion is to help people experience God, because my whole book is about the mystery in you. It's about Christ is in you. It's about discovering Christ, God, within the deepest part of your being. But what I recognized with that was that even that whole idea of God being in you, as amazing and enlightening as that idea is, it can become just like any other theological idea or any theological concept. And again, it's awesome and it's something that needs to be preached and taught. But I got to a point where I said, you know what? Like, if there's no experience behind the knowledge and discovery of this awesome truth, then it's really meaningless, because I can sit here and talk about Christ is in you and this is amazing. It's the hope of glory all day long. But if you're not having an experience of Christ within you for yourself, then there will be no transformation. Um, and so that's my passion, is to help people take the idea of God, the divine being within, and turn that into a direct experience that produces transformation in their lives. So that's where I'm at now.